G'day ladies and gentlemen, my name's Isaac Butterfield and this video is about a man who spent almost 30 years locked in solitary confinement. This is violent criminal Michael Barry Fife, and he has spent almost 28 years. Imagine that, 28 years in solitary confinement. But the reason as to why he has spent so much time there, that's what's going to shock you. And it may even make you think they should let him out. He should be released immediately. Michael Barry Fife grew up under very difficult circumstances. Parliamentary records note that by age 15, he had already done time. This was in state care. You see, at that young age, he was placed in what is known as a boys' home. They were removed from their families for a multitude of reasons. Maybe they were breaking the law, maybe the families were no good, all those type of things. And they were put there to be looked after by people employed by the state or by church groups or by various different groups. It's important to note that not all these boys were criminals. Some were just left by their families because they didn't want them anymore. It's very sad, the history of boys' homes. And unfortunately, many, and I mean many, of these homes for boys were infested with sexual abuse by the people in charge. It is horrific when you read the stories. There was a royal commission into this, and the findings from that royal commission, if you don't know what a royal commission is, it's basically the government looking into something deeply. The findings were horrific, like kids just treated in the worst conditions and just horrible, just horrible. How anyone comes out of that being normal, I don't know. This is one report from a young boy in Glebe in Sydney, Royalston Boys Home. That opened in the 20s. Now, I'm not sure exactly what year this is from, but I just want you to imagine what it's like to be in this boys' home, just for a sec. The matron took me into her room and said to me, "I am your new mother." I had never seen my mother, but I had heard other children talking about their mothers, so I thought, oh, this is great. I've got a mummy now, Jeff said. The matron said, "This is what mothers do to their sons." I can remember those words, and I didn't know why, but I felt what she was doing to me was wrong. What the matron did to me was so excruciating. I passed out from the pain. I don't know what happened to Michael Barry Fife, but I do know that this was very, very common in these places. So whatever happened to him were probably just as horrific as some of these examples. In later years, Fife himself described a, quote, domestic violence and dysfunctional family background, saying he had, quote, negligible family or community support. And it was these formative experiences that he went through that made him into the person that would have to be locked up in a box by himself for 28 long years. And that's not surprising. Imagine what would happen to a dog if you treated it like this. If you were so horrible to it its entire life, it would be a vicious mongrel. Well, the same thing happens to people. During the late 1980s and early 1990s, Fife amassed numerous convictions for serious violence. All of his previous convictions were either of assault, grievous bodily harm, or attempted murder. Okay, so obviously this guy shouldn't be just released. Okay, I think I was wrong thinking that at the start. Obviously he's a bad dude, but let's go on. Let's learn more about him. This is from the Honourable Justice Anderson about Fife. He said this to him: "Your record of offences of violence is one of the worst I've ever seen. In 1982, you had 2 separate convictions for assault. In 1985, you were convicted of assaulting a police officer. On another occasion of an assault occasioning actual bodily harm, and on another occasion causing death by dangerous driving. In 87, you were convicted of attempted murder, for which offence you used a knife. On another occasion of assaulting the police. In 93, you were convicted of causing grievous bodily harm. The offence was committed in Port Lincoln Prison, and the weapon you used was a cricket bat. In 94, it was attempted murder. Jesus. In 95, convicted of assaults on correctional service officers. A bad dude. And this is why he won't ever be released, I don't think, because he obviously is a very bad person, a very violent man. But by 1995, when he was serving a lengthy prison term, about 17 years or 18 years for these crimes, which included one attempted murder, he killed someone. While serving that sentence at Yatala Prison, Fife murdered fellow inmate Anthony Trevor Tilley, which also I keep seeing him referred to as Joe Tilley, so I don't know what's going on there. Now, this is why I think a lot of people will defend this guy and say he should not be in solitary confinement, or he definitely didn't deserve it for 28 years since this occasion, because this guy that he killed was a horrific human being. Fife lured Tilley into the prison kitchen and stabbed him in the back, then twisted the blade to, quote, make sure his victim would not survive, end quote. So ferocious was this attack, a piece of Tilley's liver fell out of the gaping stab wound onto the kitchen floor, yummo, whilst he's being treated by ambulance officers. The killing settled a, quote, long-standing score, according to the court reporting, and shocked officials. Justice Matheson later called Fife one of the most violent men he had ever encountered, and noted that he showed no prospect of rehabilitation. Now, why did he kill this guy? I've alluded to the fact that he was a horrible person, but what happened? Now, what I'm about to say here is alleged, but this is apparently, through a lot of reports, what sort of went down, or at least led up to this happening. Fife and his sister were physically and sexually abused for years by their violently depraved family members when he was 13 years old. He was then placed into boys' homes where again he was physically and sexually abused. So it would not come to any of us as a surprise that Fife saw vicious murder as the only possible outcome of his relationship with the person that he met in jail, Anthony Trevor Tilley, because he harboured an intense hatred of predators. And according to Fife, when you listen to conversations about this guy, although there's not that much online about it, but they do say on the internet and in police reports that this person was convicted of a heinous crime. According to Fife, though, he said that this guy R-worded a child.
When I killed that copper, like he was like a young girl whilst on duty anyway, right?
Yeah.
So I've killed him. When the coronial inquiry was undertaken, the coroner told DCS to stop making risk management decisions, because when they put me over there with him, right, they knew something was going to happen, but they took a risk hoping that nothing would happen.
Fife, now in his 60s, doesn't deny his guilt, nor does he regret his actions.
A lot of people don't do anything, you know what I mean? Because it's not up to everyone. Now, I mean, it's not up to everyone to bash someone or stab someone. Like, we just want to do our jail, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and people want to return to their families.
Yeah.
But for me specifically, I don't like child and you know what I mean, I do something about it. And if what I do is offensive to someone, I don't apologise, because the fact is that someone's got to protect the kids. And if what I do saves one child's life from horrendous, torturous behaviour from a predator, then so be it.
And we know that, yeah, the courts aren't doing enough about these vicious, shitty people that should be locked up for life. And I guess that's why in prison they often take this stuff into their own hands. Is that a bad thing?
After all these years, I have morals, I have values. Do you know what I mean? I'm a man that stands up for something. You know what I mean? We do things in life, in all walks of life, everybody. We do the things that we do. Sometimes, you know what I mean, like you know what I mean, because we have to do a few hard yards or it's not fair, all of a sudden we've got to become apologetic about something. What, be someone that you're not?
So in Fife's eyes, he murdered a disastrous, horrible human being. And I think most people would agree that that person was a horrible person. Should he have done it? Yeah, if he was a child, yeah. Probably. So from this, he faces an extra 45 years behind bars. And then the past 27 or 28 of those years now, it has been in solitary confinement. Locked in a cage 23 hours a day, not able to leave, there by yourself. Imagine what that does to someone. Fuck. In 2004, Fife applied to the South Australian Court of Criminal Appeal to reduce his sentence, and that appeal was ultimately unsuccessful. There were no reductions granted, and he remained in custody serving an aggregate non-parole term of about 45 and a half years, one of the longest sentences in Australia. In solitary confinement, he was known as the Birdman of Yatala. After 1995, Fife was classified as extremely dangerous and placed in long-term isolation. He spent almost his entire sentence in Yatala Prison's G Division, which is a supermax segregation unit. An ABC News report noted he had been in solitary confinement since 1996. All of this extreme seclusion saw him make friends with birds. That's where he got the name, the Birdman. Conditions, I imagine, were very harsh. I don't know if you've seen much in movies, but they often look absolutely terrible. From one account, even after a transfer to another facility, he did not even have access to a pencil. And being 300 kilometres from Adelaide, it made visitation extremely difficult. So he's not getting visited by anyone. He's not writing anything. Is he allowed to read? Who the fuck knows? Just recently, 3 years ago, Fife was moved to Port Augusta Prison as a part of his planned reintegration unit. Good, he's going back into Gen Pop. But reports indicate his isolation continued under severe restrictions. How could he possibly ever go back into Gen Pop after being locked up for that long? How do you remain sane? I'd lose the fuck. I remember during the COVID lockdowns, I was terrified of having to go into hotel isolation. That was scary. Prison reports depict a mix of defiance and occasional cooperation. Case notes show that in 2009, he initially refused to participate in treatment programs, telling the staff that he'd been let down in the past. But other people say that he's polite and talkative. Now, I've listened to some podcasts, audio with Fife, and he sounds like a prisoner, but he sounds like a normal dude, which is absolutely insane considering how long he's been locked up. So what is happening now? Early 2025, Fife remains incarcerated and has been transferred to Port Augusta Prison for preparatory reintegration. However, according to reports, his conditions there have remained extremely restrictive and no release date is imminent. He continues to serve a life sentence, and with a multi-decade non-parole term, his case is still occasionally mentioned in South Australian corrections reviews, but there is no indication of change in his custody. So he's still in solitary, basically. Man, that's got to stop. So he's being punished. I know he's a violent offender, and he probably should never leave prison again. Probably can't be trusted. But should you end the reign of a terrible person in jail who had done terrible things? Should that mean that you get locked up for 28 years? I say no fucking way. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. What should be done with people like Michael Barry Fife? I'm interested to see your opinion. Ladies and gentlemen, be a good motherfucker. Peace in the Middle East. Me dick stinks. Let me know if you enjoyed this type of video too. I know it's different, but I'll see you in the next one. Toodaloo au revoir. Bye-bye.